NC State never really got in the mix, but they're the one that ends up finishing closest to the ACC championship game.
What could have been?
What could have been?
One win. One win against the team that's in it.
Yeah, 13-10. Florida State has a chance to solidify their spot in the college football playoff, meaning one of the top 4. Louisville has a chance to win their first ACC championship football ever. How about that? First of all, I've been advocating Florida State, if you're undefeated, you get into the college football playoff. I've been saying it, and someone's listening. Here's Greg McElroy on that exact topic.
They will be in the playoff because they're an undefeated Power 5 champ that played a Power 5 schedule. With a win against Louisville this weekend, that would give them 3 ranked wins, one of which against LSU in the non-conference, who the committee greatly respects. One against Louisville, who's currently ahead of Tennessee. That's one of the better wins for both Georgia and for Alabama. And one against Clemson, who's in the 25-ish range, kind of comparable to that of Tennessee, which also compares favorably. So one, they have the resume to back it up. And two, you cannot tell me, after what we witnessed 10 years ago with Ohio State and Cardale Jones, the quarterback is a sole indicator of future success in the playoffs.
So I agree with Greg McElroy. And by the way, Greg McElroy is an Alabama quarterback, so I think it carries a little bit of weight. First of all, let's get this out of the way for the ACC Championship game. NC State fans, Wolfpack Nation, if you're listening, big Florida State fans. And I'm not talking about like, oh, you want them to win. I'm talking about like, oh, you want them to smash Louisville. 3 touchdowns plus going away, which becomes more difficult when you hear Tate Rodemaker, the quarterback for Florida State, who stepped in for the injured Jordan Travis, is a game-time decision.
Yeah.
So you may get Brock Glenn, the third-stringer young quarterback who has about 5 attempts in his career.
But I'm getting Ohio State flashbacks from their national championship a couple of years ago.
You think it's who's the third string? It was, oh my goodness, he was drafted by the Bills. What's his name?
Josh. No, I'm joking.
Josh, he had a big arm. Oh, that's going to frustrate. I'll figure it out during a commercial break. That is going to.
Why don't we use this tool called Google?
It wasn't
JT
Barrett. It wasn't Braxton Miller. It wasn't. Who was the big guy? Cardale Jones. And I did not Google. It was Cardale Jones. You just heard me get there. Cardale Jones. So anyway, first of all, NC State fans, now that won't ruin me by bouncing around in my brain for the rest of the segment, NC State fans, big Florida State fans, in order for NC State, in order for the Wolfpack, in order for Dave Doran and Peyton Wilson and Brennan Armstrong to end up in the Orange Bowl, New Year's 6, Florida State has to beat Louisville so bad that Louisville drops 5 spots in the college football playoff rankings. They have to beat Louisville so bad that the rankers start looking at Louisville and go, ooh, how did they get up that high? In order for NC State to end up in the Orange Bowl, Florida State has to do disgusting things to Louisville. Second of all, you want the Orange Bowl, okay? You want the Orange Bowl, even if it's the Orange Bowl against Ohio State. Right, I asked this question a few times. I wanted to see what everybody would say. You could go to if the options are the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but you have a better chance at winning 10 games, which would be a high water mark in the Dave Doran era, or the Orange Bowl, but you're going to have to face Ohio State and the cards are stacked against you. You take the Orange Bowl every time.
NC State has requested for the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Unless they get the Orange Bowl.
Obviously, but it would be funny to see Dave Doran eat the first ever edible mascot or take a bite out of the first ever edible mascot.
It's a nice consolation prize, but you want the Orange Bowl. If I'm somebody like Peyton Wilson, who, by the way, I think will play in either game, but I'm definitely playing in the Orange Bowl, I got to weigh the risk of playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Now let's look at the actual game. Outside of just the impact on the local teams, the actual game, the ACC is better and more healthy with what I'm calling a behemoth. Parity is what everyone says they want, but it's not actually the healthiest way to be a conference, right? Parity might make the regular season more fun, more upsets, right? Every week you might be able to win. There's no dramatic steamroller mowing down the rest of the entire conference. I get it. But as soon as the postseason starts, you want a behemoth. right? You want a flag carrier for your conference. Louisville winning their first ACC championship seems great, right? That's like parity, right? A new team getting to hoist the trophy. It's kind of cool. It's kind of new, but it would actually be an absolute catastrophe for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Because then Florida State has no shot of making the college football playoff. And then you're not getting the CFP money. You're not getting the CFP exposure. And you have a really, really angry Florida State who it might be more motivated to lawyer up and find a way out of the conference. Parity is fun during the year. I want, if there's 10 teams in my conference, and this goes generically for all conferences, if there's 10 teams in my conferences, I want 9 teams that play wildly competitive games every time they play each other, and I want one juggernaut. And that juggernaut has to go try to win a national championship. Everybody else has to go entertain me every Saturday for an entire college football season. This year, the juggernaut, it's Florida State. And I can't tell you how many times, I've rocked and rolled back and forth with gosh, I really don't like that program. I don't like how they are trying to light the ACC on fire from the inside. I don't like that they openly taunt the conference. I don't think it's healthy for anyone. But then I roll to the other side, right? The pendulum swings back, and I'm like, go Seminoles. Carry the flag for the conference. Hopefully you win a national championship.
You turned heel. You got into the ring with you got into the ring with North Carolina, and rather than hand them the steel chair to hit across the head of Florida State, you hit North Carolina in the back.
Yeah, you kind of had to. You have to hit everyone else in the ACC in the back. The only way you get a representative in the college football playoff is if Florida State beats Louisville. Now, if it's a close win, you need to not only hope that they beat Louisville, but then that the College Football Playoff Committee has some unwritten rule that if you're an undefeated Power 5 conference champion, you make it into the top 4. Because there's a world where if Texas smacks the heck out of Oklahoma State and Florida State squeaks by Louisville, there's going to be a lot of advocates for Texas to make it in over Florida State, including, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk Herbstreit saying, I don't really care who's undefeated. I care who are the best teams. Probably because he has to call the games, and he's going, I don't want to call another blowout. There's been a bunch of them in the college football playoff era. So you really need Florida State to wipe the floor with Louisville and maybe with Florida State's third quarterback.
What a storyline that'd be.
What a story. Brock Glenn to the rescue. And if you're saying who's Brock Glenn, exactly. He is the third-string quarterback for Florida State because their second stringer is a game-time decision, and Jordan Travis, their starter and the ACC Player of the Year, is done with an injury that he suffered a couple games ago. So NC State fans are rooting for Florida State because if they mollywop Louisville, the Wolfpack might end up in the Orange Bowl. Everybody else has to root for Florida State because if Florida State loses, there's zippy-dippy chance of the ACC having a college football playoff team, and I believe that would be the third straight year. Start sounding like you're the Big 12 or something. You don't want that to happen. Too much pride in the ACC. And listen, this is important, okay? I don't just go around championing the ACC because it's like, hey, the Atlantic Coast Conference, it's our part of the country. It's because the schools that we cover, the schools that most of the fans are here in the Triangle, the states, the Carolinas, the Dukes, the Wakes, they need to have their conference strong and healthy, and that includes all the way at the top competing against the best of the best. If you don't have that, everything crumbles underneath it slowly over time.